Hi, I'm Hilmi from ZMQ.
Hello, and I'm Subhi, also from ZMQ, a technology for development social enterprise.
There's a big divide in the world. We have almost 7.5 billion population, and the world markets are ready to cater to only 1 billion population. There's another 4 billion population who live at the bottom of the pyramid, and they have been experiencing a lot of social challenges like poverty, illiteracy, lack of basic health care, lack of clean water, lack of energy, etc. And it makes a big difference between life and death for them. And if you see in last 10 years, there have been a huge increase in connectivity from 0 to 100%. If you go from India to Afghanistan or Brazil to Kenya, in all these countries, the connectivity has gone almost as high as 100%. And we see that, if you really make use of this connectivity and create radical technological innovations for these communities, it can make a big difference for people who are marginalized, underprivileged, rural, especially women, because they comprise almost 2 billion population. In 2009, ZMQ was working with microfinance institutions, and then we had a lot of revelations. In fact, if we know, in microfinance institutions, 95% of the beneficiaries are women, and they take loans to start their own enterprises. And what came for us was a surprise that here almost 75% of the women, they were in multiple cycles of loans, but their but the family status absolutely didn't change. There was no change in their living standard, and it was a surprise. It looked as if the whole model of Dr. Mohammed Yunus, who had led the Grameen Foundation model of microfinance, was like a failure. And then we realized that almost 30% was kind of the loan interest which all the organizations were charging these women, and it was a surprise for us. In 2009, ZMQ had an opportunity to work with microfinance institutions, and for us it came as a revelation. If you know, there are almost 95% of the beneficiaries of microfinance institutions and self-help groups are women, and they take loans from these organizations and they start the enterprises. Also, all the organizations were charging a loan amount of almost 30% of the interest on the loan amounts. And what came as a big surprise for us that hardly all the women were in multiple cycles of loan, but their status at homes absolutely didn't change. It means there was something wrong in the model, and we were surprised to see that the Grameen model of Dr. Mohammed Yunus was like a failure for us. Then we realized that just giving loans to women and giving them money and taking back the loan interest is not the solution. Women also need training, they need capacity building, they need more information on healthcare, on livelihood. And this led us to the creation of a very beautiful program called Women Mobile Lifeline Channel, which was later named as the Mira channel. Mira is basically a mobile channel on maternal and child health for rural women, which give information about prenatal care, postnatal care, immunization, family planning, adolescent girl, newborn babies, all kind of dangers and all. And it became a very popular model. It was a mobile-based program which got replicated in India and then later got scaled up in 6 countries: Afghanistan, Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Senegal, and Sierra Leone. And it has been substantially impacted and changed the lives of women, as it was able to capture high-risk pregnancies at the right time by connecting them with the services at the health centers. And to give you an anecdotal impact, we in the first year of our program in Uganda, we had almost 51 girls who were named Mira in one of the districts of Jinja in Uganda. So it speaks about itself, and it has been a beautiful model, which has really impacted a lot of women. We have reached to almost 2 million subscribers, girls, women, and children.
So we are living in a world which is so deeply right now connected that even the poorest of the person has access to connectivity. They have a mobile phone, and it has taken a shape of the connectivity has taken shape of a natural resource that everybody is connected. We have been trying since last 100 years to provision clean drinking water to everybody, but we have not been able to do so. We have not been able to give housing to everyone, clothing to everyone, but connectivity has reached everybody. So we have to look at this connectivity with a new dimension. It has a very crucial role to play in the development of the people, and it also leads to a new dimension in designing solutions. We are right now living in a world where all the solutions are top down in nature. That is, it is top down administered. With connectivity, it opens up this opportunity of designing solutions for the people in a bottom up approach where people have choices, people learn and make decisions. So we came about with this whole model and implemented this whole approach in a new program called Active Compliance and Treatment Strategy in Tuberculosis, which began with provisioning tools in the hands of patients to report their daily adherence to treatment through a video-based interface called Video Observed Therapy. And we gradually scaled this program to an active compliance and treatment strategy, which sits over right now over the existing model or the old model of direct observation and treatment short course, which was a very top-down approach. And with the active compliance coming into active compliance and treatment strategy coming into shape, it is now a bottom-up approach where we use technology to educate the ground or make the ground understand the problem, then provision tools in the hands of the people, tools in the hands of the patients and communities to identify cases, tools in the hands of the patients to report their adherence, and the role of the top layer remains that their key functioning is to ensure that the services are delivered to people in time and accurately.
If you really want to work with the communities, it is very important to understand their stories. And for that, we started a program called YST, or Your Storyteller, where we do a lot of workshop with the communities, work with them together and create stories on the social norms and barrier behaviors, which help us, which help in inculcating positive behavior change. These stories are then converted into digital stories, which are put onto YouTube and also available on Android, also available on iOS phones. These stories are very powerful stories of champions, stories of best practices, and and these stories can also be viewed by the people in the urban areas and also by the policymakers, so that they really understand what are the challenges of the ground. And at the same time, there is a big opportunity for these stories which can be exported as a local content going outside, rather than importing Mickey Mouses from the north and selling here, right? So and these stories are not only just stories, but they are their evaluation and behavior change is done on a very scientific method, where we have kind of a pre-test and a post-test, and do evaluation based on the knowledge, attitude, and the behavior of the people, based on how much they've understood, what they know, and what they really practice. So almost we have over 300 stories, almost 1 million subscribers, 85 million we have downloads, and they are available in multilingual mode, which is really helping us to understand more and more in depth about the communities.
Extending our reach in rural women, we have a program called Ajivika Connect, which is taking shape at the moment. This is in India alone, almost 30% of the rural women are engaged into self-finance, into microfinance, and they are organized, and we call them organized human networks. And we are embedding micro classrooms in these organized human networks through digital classes. So a group can choose a particular training program that they wish to take, they can be connected, but at the same time they can use this opportunity of doing meetings and training to manage their fund. So it's a integrated program for finance management as well as skills building for rural women and we see that in coming next 5 years, this is going to be the largest schooling approach in the world that we are taking. And having seen the COVID times that remote classrooms have been very powerful, these SHGs, which comprise of 20 women in the ideal classroom sizes, in order to impart education and literacy among these women.
Technology for development is a very huge area, because there is an opportunity to address almost 4 billion people, and it can be a social enterprise, it can be for profit, it can be non-profit, but it is about heart, less of mind, more about heart. So in In our kind of work, we say that ROI doesn't mean return of investment, it's more of return of impact.
As rightly said, technology for development is huge. We have trained our children and students to look skywards, towards pinnacles, towards peaks, but we have not trained them to look on the ground. There's an open space on the ground for our students to use their skills, their knowledge, their technologies that they've learned to apply to change and transform lives of people. And this is what we want, that our institutions must engage with the students to give them exposure to the ground so that they can design, they can use their skills of technology to change the lives of the people. ZMQ is on a constant pursuit of finding new problems and new ways of solving it. We are engaged into ICT for development. There could be some other set of people who are doing engineering or design for development, or electrical engineering for development, or even space technology for development. But ZMQ is focused at ICT for development, and within ICT there are new domains that are coming up. AI for development. How many people are working for AI for development to save lives of women who are dying while giving birth to the children? How many organizations working towards AI for agriculture in order to have good produce and also that the farmer lives a better life? So we need to look at technology for development as a big sector and prepare our next generation to engage and change the lives of the people on the ground. Also, I would like here to mention Mahatma Gandhi. He was the father of appropriate technology, and he, using a charkha, a mechanical engineering tool, he revolutionized the whole Indian revolution that led to our independence and where we are today. So we must not forget the contribution of Mahatma Gandhi, who was the father of appropriate technology movement then and now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.